Hey everyone, and welcome to June's Washcloth Wednesday. In preparation for Canada Day, we are making a maple leaf washcloth. This is not the exact one that we're making. This was the first version that I made up, but the finished one is at Kim's, and some of you have seen it, but I forgot to grab it before I filmed this, so this is my visual aid. Okay, yarn. Now, I have had problems getting the white in the noble cotton. If you have white in your stash, then please go ahead and use that. And then I do have a red. It's called Molten Lava. You can purchase a red. But because I have not been able to get white in since I opened my online shop, I went looking for something else. And I have used this Eco Cotton TK yarn before. It's not mercerized like the noble cotton. But it's nice and soft. I do find it a little bit splitty to work with, so just keep that in mind and go slowly and pay attention to where you're putting your hook and how your stitches are making or how are forming. But again, I ran into problems with supply, and I don't have enough of the red to give everybody an entire ball, so I've put together kits and you basically get half a ball. Okay, so for this washcloth, we are doing some color changes, which are simple once you get the hang of it, but first time doing this sort of color work might be a little bit confusing. I have made the suggestion in the top of, I don't know, somewhere in the pattern, about using 2 balls of white, because you do see the white through the red. So if this is going to bother you, then I would suggest using 2 balls of white. I'm going to use 2 balls of white in this video just to show you, but if you aren't using the 2 balls, if you're just going to work with 1 ball, then it's very simple, and I'll show you how to carry your yarn across. Okay, the reason I wanted to use a DK yarn is because we have sort of established that we're using a 4.5 mil hook. So I didn't want to have to get you to go out and buy another hook. I mean, obviously, if you've been crocheting a while, you probably have quite a few hooks, and that might not be an issue. But I kind of wanted to keep in the same weight of yarn as the noble cotton. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to make my base chain, and then we'll talk about some of the color work stuff. So we need a slip knot and then a chain of 30, and then you're going to half double crochet in the second chain and every chain across, and then we'll start with some color work. Okay, so I will come back. I'm going to split this ball into 2, and then I will come back and we will make the pattern. Okay, I've got my yarn split in, my white split into 2 balls. I've done my foundation chain, and I have my half double row of half double finished. So that is 29 white half double crochets. Yeah, so the pattern. So I made a note about that somewhere, probably at the top of the pattern, just to keep the word count down and to try and keep it as simple for you guys as possible. The whole pattern is done in half double crochet, so you don't have to worry about what stitch you're using. It's always going to be a half double crochet. And the number of stitches in each color is just written out, basically. So in the first row, I've even written in the brackets, you should have white 29. So you've got 29 white stitches. Easy peasy, right? So the next row, we look at it, we've got white 14, red 1, white 14. So what that means is you're going to make 14 white half double crochets, and then you're going to change color. You're just going to do 1 half double crochet in red, change back to the white. Now for the first 3 rows, I am going to stick with the same ball of white. It's just going to be easier. I'm not going to add that second ball until we get down here where on the washcloth it widens. That's when I will drop the first ball of white when we get to the center, and then switch to the other ball. Okay, but that will all make sense when we get there. Okay, so let's get going, and then we will cover how to do the color changes when we get there. So after the first row of half double crochet, you're going to chain 1. You're always going to chain 1 at the end of each row, and that chain 1 does not count. So the first stitch you're working in is the very first stitch of the row. let's see here, can we zoom in? So I've chained 1 half double crochet. So we are starting with 14 half double crochets. So because you start your color change in the last stitch of your current color, I'm going to do 13 half double crochets and then we will tackle the color change. Okay, so let's count here. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I have 13 white half double crochets, so I know that I need to change to red after my next stitch. So I'm going to start my 14th stitch in the same manner. I'm going to yarn over and insert and pull up a loop. When I have 3 loops on my hook, I'm going to stop. I'm going to drop my red, pick up my white, drop my white, pick up my red, lay the red across my hook and pull that red through the 3 white loops on my hook. And now I can make my 1 red half double crochet with my red yarn. Now I am laying the white and the red tail on the top of my work. I definitely want to work over my white, and if I work over my red tail as well, it will just help lock it in place a little bit better. So I've yarned over, inserted, pulled up a loop, all with my red. I'm at that same point that I was at with my white. I've got 3 red loops on my hook. Drop my red, pick up my white tail, pull through. So now I should have 14 white stitches, 1 red stitch. I have 14 white, I have 1 red. Now I can keep going with my white and finish off the row. After you've done a couple of stitches, just go back and give the red tail at the back just a little bit of a tug. You just kind of want to tighten it up a little bit, but you don't want to pull it too much and sort of skew the stitch. Okay, so I'm going to continue on. I'm going to finish off my row. I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to come back and then I'll show you how we pick up that red again. All right, so I'm back where my red is. I've got 1 white stitch to do still, and you can see my red is waiting for me. So this is what I like to do. I'm not going to promise that it is the right way or the wrong way. This is what I like to do. As I insert into the stitch before where I'm going to make the color change, I also bring up my red and just lay it across my hook. So it's kind of a part of the stitch as I yarn over. So I've pulled up a loop. I'm about to yarn over with my red. So I'm going to drop my white. My red is right there, and then I can pull it through all those stitches. And then I'm just going to tug on that white to pull it down so the stitch sort of matches all the others. It's not super loose. Now, making sure that my white is laying on top of the next red stitch, yarn over with your red, insert, pull up a loop, drop that red, pick up the white, and pull through. And I'm always dropping my tail to the back of my work, not the back of the dishcloth, so that every piece you do has a right side and a wrong side. I'm not worried about that right now. I can tell that the wrong side is this side facing up right now because that's where my short red tail is. But when you are working in a color work situation, you're always dropping your the color you're not working with to the back. Okay, so I've dropped it to the back. I finished that stitch with the white, and now I can continue on. Okay, so we've got those 2 stitches of the stem. So we got 1 more row like that to do, and then I will come back and I will meet you up when we start making more of the color changes, and we're going to add in the other ball of white. So I've done those first 3 rows where it was just 14 white, 1 red, 14 white, and we are ready to move on to row number 5 where we start adding some more color changes. So it starts off with 8 white. So I'm just going to work up to the 8 to 7 basically, and then show you how we're going to pull across that red. Because currently it's in the middle, and we're going to have to pull it over a fair bit. Okay, so that is stitch number 7. My next stitch is my last in white, which means that I need to pull through with red. So I'm going to yarn over and insert into the next stitch, and then I'm going to find my red tail, and I'm going to lay it across my hook like I was doing before. And then I'm going to yarn over with the white and pull up. Now the trick with the red is to lay it across, but don't have it too tight. You don't want it to pull. You just want it to sort of be in line with everything. So now the pattern reads red 4. So I'm going to drop my white. Actually, I'm not going to drop it. I'm going to lay it across. And then I'm going to yarn over it with my red. I'm just going to take a minute to sort of neaten everything up, tug on my white. Now we're working over the white tail and this red from that I had to pull across basically. Okay, so the next one I yarn over with the red, I go in the next stitch. The white and the red are sandwiched in between there. Make my half double crochet. So I'm going to do that 3 times. So that's 3. So now I'm just going to give my white a tug to make sure that it's not bunched at the back. Let's see if we can focus on that. Make sure it's just laying flat and not bunched up or popping out. Because now I need to do 2 in white. So we're going to yarn over with the red, insert into my 4th red stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now I'm going to lay my red across the top of my work, pick up my white, and finish that stitch in my white. Just like before, I'm going to tug with my red to tighten down the red, yarn over with my white into my next stitch, always being careful to catch the other strands of yarn so that they get sandwiched underneath this stitch. And I need 2 white, so I've got 1. I'm just gonna pull that red aside so that I can find that last white stitch that I need. It's gonna go in there, yarn over. Now this time I am dropping my white, because when I start with white on this side, we're going to start with the next ball. So I'm going to drop my white, grab my red, and yes, there's a lot of strings back here. So I'm actually going to put the white on that side. Pull everything to tighten. So as you can see, this is not like something you can just kind of do. What am I doing? Oh, I'm pulling through. That's what I'm doing. Now I'm going to tighten up that stitch. Okay, so now I want to zoom in. Here you see I've still got this one loop of red from where I pulled it over. I want to make sure that I catch that on the next stitch. So I'm going to yarn over before I enter the stitch. I'm going to go underneath that red. I'm going to enter that red stitch. Wait, make sure I got the right one. Yarn over and come up. And now I need to drop that red. Sorry, I'm not dropping it. I'm putting it across my work. And now I'm going to bring in my other ball of white. So just like how we added the red, I'm going to lay that white across and pull it through. And then I need 2 white stitches. So I'm going to go over my white tail. I'm going to take a moment, tug my red tail, make sure it's nice and tight. That's 1 white. Insert into the next stitch, yarn over, lay my whites across, grab my red, and we are doing 4 in red. So I've got 1, and I'm just going over all my white tails, like even the short one. That's 3. So last one. Okay, I'm pulling up, I'm dropping my red, I'm grabbing my white, I'm gonna tug it, make sure that we don't have any extra loops showing through, and pull it through. And now I can continue with my white, and I can continue working over that short tail. I'm gonna leave it and then weave that in later. You can just crochet over it if you like. I find that that is not a secure enough sort of bond, especially for a dishcloth that is being washed all the time. I will take that tail and I will weave it in properly later. Okay, so we're getting to the end here. We've got our 8 white. I can find that last stitch. Always likes to hide. Okay, so that's what we should be looking at right now. So the next one reads 9 white, 11 red, 9 white. So I'm going to come across with my white, put in 9 stitches, grab my red, take my red all the way across. Where my second white comes, I'm going to pick that up and bring it across with me and then finish in the white. Okay, so let's work on that together. Okay, so I'm at stitch number 8. This is one that I'm doing fully in white. However, I want to have that red sort of handy. So I'm going to pull my red tail up and lay it over my white and just kind of have it there. Finish off my white stitch. And then we're going to do the color change. So now you see how there's this loop here. I'm going to go underneath that loop, underneath the stitch, yarn over, bring up my 3 loops. I can drop my white. I don't need it for the rest of this row because I have another ball attached to the other side, and then yarn over with my red. So I'm just going to tug that white stitch down, and now I can do my 11 stitches in red. Now this is where my white is hanging out. So I'm actually going to back up a stitch, and I'm going to use that same trick that I used with my red. So as I insert into that red, I'm going to lay the white on my hook, finish with my red, and then I'm just going to pull that across so that I can now work over it until I need just the white. And again, I'm going to find that free loop and work it into the stitch. I know this might seem a little bit complicated, but it will help neaten up your work. Good. Just want to count my stitches because I've lost count. I need 11. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I'm at 11. So I need to just back it up because I need to switch back to my white here. Let's redo that last stitch. This is why it's important to keep counting. I got distracted by things that are going on in my house. Okay, so I'm gonna drop my red. I got my white, and then snug down on my red, and I can continue on with my white. Oops. Okay, so that's what we have so far. So the next few rows are kind of a repeat in the same. You're just varying how many white and red you have, but you don't have a lot of color changes. So keep on going, and then I will probably meet you up back in row 14 and we can do the last few rows together. I have finished up to row 13, so we are ready to do row 14, which has quite a few color changes, and that's where I thought I would come back in and walk you through it. So hopefully your washcloth is looking something like this. So this is the back, you can tell because that's where the short red tail is, and then that is the front. Hopefully a little bit neater. Okay, so row 14, just go slowly, and I found it helpful to sort of cross off as I went across. Do you. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was your tails and sort of corralling all the little balls of yarn. So currently I have my 3 balls in approximately the positions where they ended. Now, as I flip, obviously my balls will get tangled up. So take a moment every time you flip to just kind of move your balls of yarn around and minimize that twisting and general chaos that can happen with a lot of color work. Okay, so let's get into this one. Because we are working with the 2 balls of white, or I am working with the 2 balls of white, I want to find the center sort of section. So I've got, and it always, it's symmetrical, right? So what you do on one side, you do on the other. So I've got white 5, red 6, white 1, red 5, white 1, red 6, white 5. So that red 5, that's my middle. And if I can find a pencil or something on my desk, pen will work. I am going to circle that red 5. So the white ones, that's the last time I need white on the left and white, and that's the first time I need white on the right. So that's where I will switch balls. If you are only using 1 ball of white, you're just going to continue to carry your white all the way across as you've been doing. So I chained 1, and let's just zoom in. So we have got 5 white. So the last row we just did 3. So we're going to pick up that red at that 3rd stitch and keep working with it. And like I said, this yarn is a bit splitty, so hopefully you're not getting frustrated with it. I don't like to introduce frustrating yarns to you guys, but this is the reality that not all yarns are created equal. So as I insert into stitch number 3, I'm just going to lay that red on the top, and then pull that over so that I'm working over it for the next couple of stitches. So I can finish off stitch 3 and come underneath that front loop to try and hide that in. So that is stitch number 4. I need 1 more in white, which means this stitch, in fact, I'm going to go under that loop again. This stitch is where I drop my red, actually lay it on the top and pick up my white. Sorry, other way around. I lay my white across the top and pick up my red. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 white, so I need 6 red. So we're just going to be working over that white strand until our next color change. And I'm going to purposefully leave it kind of loose for you guys right now because I want to show you what I do when it gets kind of loose. So where are we at? Talking, I can't count. So that's 5. Ugh, split it again. So I'm going to enter into my stitch for 6 and draw up a loop before I transfer to my white. Do you see how the white is all loopy and pulled out and just looking like a hot mess? If I just transfer to my white right now, all of that stays and then you can't get rid of it. So before I transfer to my white, I'm just going to take my white and I'm going to gently tug on it. You don't want to pull it too tight because you don't want it to pucker your work, but you just want to pull it so that you can no longer see anything projecting from the back. So you can still kind of see it a little bit, but it's not all puckering out like it was a moment ago. So we're going to still work over our red, and we need, how many stitches? We just need 1 white. So I'm going to insert underneath that red, and then I can drop my white, carry on with my red. Just going to tug that white down, and I need 5 red stitches. So before I get to the last red stitch, I'm going to have to reach across and grab my white from all the way across the other side. I'm just going to tighten my other white for a minute. So I've got 3, 4. Okay, so now I'm about to start stitch number 5. I'm going to insert. I need to come over and get this white. And we're going to lay it over just like we did in row number 5. We're going to lay it across, try and keep it loose. And we're going to find the right white tail. Pull through with that white. Give your red a tug. And then we can continue on. I think we just need 1 white. So switch back to our red. And make sure you're working over those 2 white tails. And we need 6 red. 1. Always make sure you're capturing your white in between your red. Got a bit of a snarl. When you are changing colors a lot in one row, you will get twisted like this. So just take a moment to untwist if you need to. Okay, 6 red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we are doing the last 5 in white. So this is my last red. I can drop my red, grab my white, and pull through. I'm just going to take a moment. You know what? I'm going to back out of that stitch. I'm going to redo that stitch because I want to just take a moment and tug my white before I proceed. So I'm going to yarn over, pull through. I'm just going to, do you see here? It just seems like there's a little bit extra white showing. So I'm just going to give it a tug, and then that disappears and we get a nice clean stitch. And then we can carry on. Pull through with my white, being sure to grab that white loop as I go into the next stitch, because we want to hide that transition as much as possible. Sometimes because of these extra loops, your stitches are a little bit more difficult to see, which is where your counting is going to be super duper important. And that is what that row should look like. So now we're going to start to form the top edges of our maple leaf. So there's going to be a lot of color changes for the next few rows. So let's do one more together, and then I will let you go to finish up, and I'll come back for the border. Okay, let's look at the pattern. For row 15, we have a bunch of color changes. So I just found the middle section again. That's the red 7. So I've circled that and then highlighted that these are where I drop one of my white balls and pick up the other white ball. Okay, so just if that helps you, then do that. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start with 5 white again. So this first color change lines up with our last one. So nothing complicated about that. All right, so I'm going to go into stitch number 5 and grab my red, lay it on top, yarn over with my white, lay my white on top, and I'm going to pull my red to the back now. Pull through with my red, tighten down my white. So I need 2 red stitches, working over my white yarn. That's 1. Yarn over for the 2, give my white a tug. Oh, something happened there. What's going on? It looked like too much of the white was showing, so I just backed out. I think I might have missed something. Okay, bring my red across, grab my white, yarn through with my white, give my red a tug, and continue on. And I need just the 1 white. Whoops. So see, I was gonna do more than I needed to. Okay. This is easier to do when you're not trying to film yourself do it. Okay, so I've got my yarn over. I'm gonna lay my white down, pick up my red, finish the stitch with my red. Yarn over, enter the next stitch, trapping that white in there, and I need 2 red. Okay, so I have my 2, make sure I'm reading the pattern correctly. 5 white, 2 red, 1 white, 2 red. I need 1 white. So I have done all my yarn overs, just need to pull through. And now that ball of white is done. And now I can continue with just my red. And I need 7. Six. You know what? I'm just going to back that one up because I should have brought my white over. Okay, so stitch number 6. We're going to lay our white on top again before the yarn over, and then just lay it on there. We still need to finish that with red. That is number 6, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Number 7 is this white stitch from the row below. So now we can lay our red on top and switch to this ball of white. And we're just doing one white. Back to red. We got 2 reds. This one. Switch to the white. We got 1 white stitch. Two red stitches. So now I can drop my red and I'm going to finish it in my white. Just take a moment to snug down that red. And the last 5 stitches are in white, so long as you don't split your yarn. There. Managed it. Okay, so that is the row 15. Row 16 is very similar. The numbers are slightly different, and then we return to bigger chunks of red and white. We've got one more row of lots of color changes, and then our last row is the last couple of rows are fairly simple. So I'm gonna meet you back here at row 21, and we'll go through that and we'll talk about where we cut off our yarn and all that kind of stuff, and then we can do the border together. Okay, we are almost done. We are about to start row 21, and as you can see, our maple leaf is almost complete. Row 21 just has the one color change. So as we go across, I am actually going to take my white all the way across. So this second ball of white that we attached, I am actually going to cut off now. And I am just going to take this ball all the way across. And then once I make my one red stitch, I can cut off my red as well. So let's do 14 white, and then we'll cut off our red. This is stitch number 12, I believe. Sorry, 13. This is stitch number 13. As I enter this stitch, this is where I'm going to pull up my red, just as we've done in the past, to just get it in the mix. And then my next stitch is where I transfer to the red. And because I am taking this white all the way across, I'm going to lay it on top and keep working over that one. Okay. So I'm going to give that red stitch a bit of a tug. I'm going to cut that red off, leaving a bit of a long tail so that I can weave that in. I can't work over it and work it into the pattern, so I just need to give it a long tail so I can work it in. Now, as we come over with our white, we are going to run into our other white tail. Now this we can work over for a bit, and just like I did when I added it in initially, let's try that again without splitting everything. So I've got my white tail sitting on top. I can start my last 14 stitches. I'm going to work over that tail for a few stitches, and then I will leave it loose, and then I can work it in. Now, there is my red tail from the very beginning, so I know this is the back of my work, so I'm going to pull that. I think I left my other, yes, I had my other red tails on the wrong side, so I'm going to have to pull that through to the front when I weave it in. So I've worked over this tail for like 3 stitches, and the rest of it I am going to weave in. If I work over it any more than that, it's really not going to be secure enough. Okay, so we just need to get to the end of the row, and then we are almost done. Okay guys, hard part done. All the color changes are done. We are going to do 1 row of white half double crochet, and then we're going to go straight into our border. So let's do that 1 row of white, and I will meet you up to do the border. I am ready to do the border. And contrary to other dishcloths that we've made in this series, we are actually only going to do a 3-sided border because we've kind of already started it with that last row. So now we just want to neaten up the edges and finish off. So your instructions say to just keep going in the same direction, not to turn your work, but to rotate it 90 degrees. So you're looking at this side of your work. And into this corner stitch where you've already got 1 half double crochet, we are going to put 2 more. And that gives us our rounded corners. And then you've got to find spaces along the edge to put your half double crochets. Now we've got what, 21, 22 rows, something like that. So if you can get approximately 20 stitches in there, the stitch count is not super duper important. Try and keep it the same on both sides. So this edge and this edge, try and keep those the same. But let me just show you what I mean. Okay, so we've got, this is the stitch where I've got my 3 half double crochets for my corner. And then this is kind of the next large-ish space. So that's where I'm going to put my next half double crochet, just in there. If this feels like too big of a jump to you, then you can try and put it in the top of that row there. And then I'm just going to come down to the next sort of open space that I can see. And I'm just going to keep doing this all the way down the side. I'm just going to find spots to put my hook. and make some half double crochets. So try and keep them evenly spaced, but to be honest, if some are slightly bigger than the others, then I think that is okay. What I mean is like your stitches along your top here. So if some of your stitches are slightly longer than some of your others, I think it's fine, it'll all work out. So keep doing that all the way to the bottom corner. Down here, we're going to turn the corner in this stitch, which is the last stitch of your foundation row. So I'm going to work down, I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll leave you to do the rest of it. And I'll meet you up later on. So let's keep going down the side. I've just finished the last stitch of the side, well, technically second to last stitch. I'm going into this very bottom corner stitch. I'm going to put 3 half double crochets. So that first one that I've just made, that is technically the last stitch of my side border. The next one is the corner stitch. Ugh. And then the third one that goes into that that same stitch is the first stitch going back down your row. So then 1 stitch in each of the stitches along the bottom. Now, because I went into my back bumps, or back bars, I mean, I have defined V's along the bottom. So it's fairly easy for me to see those stitches. Sometimes it's not so easy to get into them because I tend to do my my foundation chain kind of tight. But yeah, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to put 1 half double crochet in each of the stitches along the bottom, 3 in the corner, and work up the side, and then I will meet you up here in the corner and we'll talk about that corner. I have gone all the way around. I am back to the top corner. So like I said, we're just putting on 3 sides of the border because the last row that we did counts as the first row of our border. And my count of, or my estimate of like 20 to 21 stitches per side, that was off. I counted. I think I have 27 on both sides. So, you know, you do you. It's your washcloth. If you have 21, great. If you have 25, great. If you have 30, fantastic. As long as you're happy with it, let's just go with that because, quite frankly, it really doesn't matter. It's a washcloth. Okay, so let's just zoom in here and so you can see what is going on. This is my last half double crochet of the side border, and it's sort of in that last row. This here is the first double crochet of the top row. So I need to add 2 more half double crochets into that space to bring my border around, and so that it matches, so that I have 3 half double crochets in each corner. So now we need to do what is called an invisible join. First step, cut your yarn. So I'm cutting it with enough to give me a decent tail to weave in. And then I'm gonna pull that right through. And then I need a yarn needle. I'm gonna thread this onto my yarn needle. And I'm gonna find the top of the first stitch from the top row. This one right here. Thread my needle from front to back underneath the V of that top stitch. Pull my needle through. And then I'm gonna find the V of my last stitch. Thread my needle down through the center of it and out the back. And now I have created this like fake stitch up there. So now I can turn my washcloth over and I can weave my end in on the back. And try not to pull that too tightly. You don't want to distort that last fake stitch, and then just keep weaving your ends in. And that's it, guys. Weave in your ends and enjoy your washcloth.